Hi there. Hope you're doing really well today. And this episode is specifically for you if you experience this phenomenon where you feel like you have to pee all the time, or just pee a lot of times in the evening or at night, which is pretty common actually. And what we look at specifically today is like this became kind of an episode of twos. So we're going to look at peeing a lot of night. We're going to look at like the two variations of kind of you know how conscious you are of this, or not. That so two variations, two reasons it happen, and two ways you can meet this if you've experienced it. And before we kind of get into this episode of twos, I just want to mention that Sarah from Talking Insomnia, number 59, she describes how she experienced this peeing a lot, and how she, when she, as part of her understanding insomnia, kind of leaving the struggle, when the anxiety faded, etc., she found that she didn't need to pee that much at all. So it's always nice to hear that from somebody who's gone through this. And also Dr. Claire Weeks, whose teaching is very, very nice. She often mentions frequent urination as part of like anxiety. So I was really excited actually when I read it in her books, because like I had noticed this myself, and I was like, yes, I'm not the only one. This is a real thing. But besides this, by the way, I want to say that everything I talk about here is like, I've never come across really any teaching about this in formal literature or anything. So it's really just my own ideas, plus those from Claire Weeks in the community, of course. Okay, so what are those two variations I talked about? Well, it is the conscious and unconscious version of peeing a lot at night. And so what I mean by this, well, I hear this, I hear quite often from clients and from people in the community here who ask about peeing a lot at night. And one way this comes across is just like stating the fact that you pee a lot. And I've heard this high numbers, like I pee like 15 times, 25 times. I just pee so many times, and that's it. And this I call the unconscious version of this, because it is just taking note of the fact that this is happening, and being kind of bewildered, puzzled, and it's kind of anxiety provoking. Why is this happening? So that's kind of the unconscious version. And and by the way, nothing is medical advice. Anyone who's worried about their health, of course, always talk to a doctor. But back to the episode here. That's the unconscious version. And then we have this version, which I also hear a lot. It's like someone says, I feel like I have to kind of compulsively, I just have to empty my bladder just to be sure that I won't wake up. And this is what I call the conscious version, because here there is awareness that peeing is a way to like try to have some control, try to make sure you don't wake up, try to make sure that try to find the ideal circumstances for sleep, and try to make sure that you don't wake up for this reason, like try to make sure you don't wake up to go to pee. And this is a very, like, there is consciousness here. There's not complete awareness of what happens, but there's some awareness here. So this is another version that can happen. So now, maybe more importantly here, like, why does this happen at all? Like, why is it a thing? And the reason this can be a little puzzling, and was, a little puzzling to me before I started to really ponder this, is that peeing really isn't part of a fight or flight response. It's not really part of a stress response, like so many things are. For example, palpitations, breathing fast, like sweating, being jittery and jumpy, having racing thoughts, like all that is, of course, part of a fight or flight response. We think we're unsafe, and we try to be really sure we can get away or fight or something like that. Our heart is racing, we're ready for something, right? That's a typical fight or flight response. But imagine if you're being chased by a rhinoceros, then your heart is going to be beating fast, you're going to be sweaty, you're going to be breathing fast, you're going to be running, but you're not going to pee. There's no way you're going to just, in the middle of a fight and flight response, go pee. That just does not make any sense. So this is why this can be puzzling. But here's the thing, okay? It's not part of a fight or flight response, but peeing is part of preparing for a fight or flight response. And I think many of you, including myself, have experienced this a lot of times actually. For me personally, it's often when I have like I'm gonna do a dropping class, or I'm gonna do something. I have a meeting. I have something like that. Something that I'm a little bit nervous about. And let's say this happens at like 10 a.m. And then right at like 9:55, it's like I need to go pee. You know. And I think that it's so clear to me that it's something like I have to kind of do that before this important thing happens, right? And I think many people have experienced this. I hope I'm not alone, or it doesn't matter if I'm alone, that's fine too. But I really believe this to be a thing, that it is a, like, when we anticipate something happening that's a little bit scary, or we know we have to, like, we're gonna have a battle, we're gonna have a fight, we're gonna be in something, something intense is gonna happen, then the brain goes like, how can I prepare for that? That's when we go pee, so it doesn't bother us later on. We just kind of prepared for that. So that's why I think it happens before we go to sleep, before we go to bed, when we have trouble sleeping, because the brain has this idea that there's going to be a fight happening. We have to be ready to fight, and therefore it kind of prepares us for that by making us go pee. But this doesn't necessarily explain what happens over and over. So the question here becomes, um, why does it happen, like, again, repetitively? Okay. And so far, by the way, to just summarize, we have seen, again, yeah, that kind of the unconscious or conscious version. And now we're going to look at two reasons why it kind of happens over and over. So we're looking at why it happens overall. Now we're going to look at what happens like over and over. So I think two reasons. So again, the first one is just kind of a diligent preparation for fight or flight. And so this is just like, whenever you have a sense that I think I could pee now, then the brain is kind of like, well, then it's best you do it now, because there's going to be this thing happening and we want to be prepared. So you do it now. And this is, I think, when it happens like, 5 times or 6 times or 7 times, something like that. Then it's just like, whenever you get a sense that I could pee, then there's kind of a diligent preparation for fight or flight there. But how about when it happens even more times? Well, then I think is this kind of OCD type component to it, which is that, you know there's been an awareness of this happening, and the frequent peeing has been sort of labeled as an unwanted, undesirable type of activity, and now there's an attempt to suppress that. It's kind of like, this would be something like, oh no, I can't have this again. I don't want to be up peeing all night again. I just have to hold this in. I can't go pee right now. And then it's like, because if I pee, then I'm going to do it again and again, and this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and then it's like this tension, because there's this attempt to suppress the urge, and that leads to like more and more of that urge, because whenever we try to suppress our emotions, kind of, they become stronger. Whenever we don't want to hear a signal from the body, it becomes stronger. So the increasing urge to pee that comes from trying to suppress that urge leads to, finally, you just have to give in and you go pee, and then you kind of, there's an immediate release. Okay, I did it. Oh, there's kind of a relief. But soon after, it's like, but what if it happens again? Oh no, I think I have to go again. Oh, this is crazy. No. And now again, the urge, like trying to suppress the urge to pee, creates so much pressure to pee that eventually you have to pee, and then it creates enough. So this is kind of a cycle that I think it can explain why this often happens so many times. Okay. So now we've seen, we looked at two of the twos, and now we're going to look at the third of the two, which is like, okay, so let's say you find that, yeah, I recognize myself here. How can you meet this? How can you meet this situation? And again, I think there's two varieties here. The first one is the more kind of offensive one, the more proactive one, if you will, which I think actually the second one is more helpful generally. But I think there are two ways to meet this. So one is just to hold it in, to just decide that I'm not going. I peed one time, and that is it. I don't need to pee anymore. I'm just going to decide to hold it in, and thereby kind of teach the brain that there is no need for this type of preparation for fight or flight, because there's no need for a fight or flight response, because there is no real threat or danger. As always, it's just this confusion where the brain thinks that being awake at night has become a threat, that we have to fight or flight, fight or escape, right? So just holding it in can be a way of teaching the brain that there's really nothing that is needed to do. But oftentimes, like, the more offensive way just leads to more kind of like more conflict, more internal conflict. So if this doesn't sound appealing to you, then I think, honestly, for most people, I think this second approach is more helpful, which is the gentle way of allowing things to happen with awareness, with kindness, without judgment. I feel like I need to go to pee. Okay, then I'll just do that. And I know that I don't really need to. I know this is part of this kind of preparation for flight or fright, but it's okay. It's totally fine. And I think typically this path is more helpful, because whenever we leave any type of struggle, then we find peaceful sleep and peace of mind. The gentle path, the kind way, typically is the more helpful one, I believe. So with this said, I hope you've found something valuable here. Please let us know in the comments section if maybe you experienced this. It's always good for the community to know that, this is not uncommon. So please, do comment or leave any questions you have there, and I'll be more than happy to reply, or just hit the love button or whatnot. But anyway, that's it for today. I hope you have a really nice weekend ahead, and hope to have you back here real soon. Bye-bye for now.